Hello, my dear IELTS friends. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. Today I'm going to share with you one of the very important short video. It is on IELTS trends in year 2022. You know that by looking at my videos, I am doing all the videos based on strong evidences. As a qualified academics, we can't just do videos for the sake of doing videos. So I am sharing today with you one of the very important findings of the IELTS 2022 new trends, purely based on over 40 students who faced IELTS exam first 2 months of year 2022 who participated for my classes. Now I am going to share with you this super important facts of the changes what I observed based on the students' feedback on IELTS exam latest trends of year 2022 based on first 2.5 month experience of this new year. First of all, I would like to talk with you listening test. Now we saw the based on the experience of my grade students, IELTS listening test has significant changes during this first 2 months of 2022, and this trend may continue for another few months. What are the main changes of the listening test we observed was actually that we can see the listening test is relatively difficult during this period of time. So why it is difficult? The listening recordings go much faster. So that's the first thing you have to understand. Now we can see the listening test recordings are going relatively faster than normal IELTS examination. So you don't have much time to listen from the beginning. From the very beginning of the recording starts at the exam, the answers for the questions are coming. So you have to quickly capture the answers. Otherwise, at the very beginning, you may lose your connection. So if you lose your connection at the very beginning of the listening test, it's affect on all reading and writing exercises, writing test. So you have to be very careful on that and make your strong preparation for the listening test. So another very important thing is for the listening test. So we can see that listening test consists a lot of multiple choice questions. So when multiple choice questions comes, you know that recording is moving, you are listening to the recording. Same time that question, and there are number of choices, so you may struggle to find out the exact correct answer. So that's also another trend of the IELTS listening test I observed based on my students' feedback. Another point I want to tell you regarding listening test is, so we can see by looking at the results of the listening test of IELTS during this first 2 months of time. So students' results are not coming as expected. So it may be sometimes 0.5 less than what we expected because of this difficulty. The most of the students get some high initial stress because of this quick and fast recordings of the listening test and its impacts on other modules also. So you have to be very careful, and my kind advice is for my YouTube viewers as well as my students. So please make your strong commitment and good preparation for the listening test. If you are going to face the IELTS exam in year 2022, maybe up to May, June, July, so your preparation is very important. But now, very recently, that we saw that little bit changes of the listening test. Actually, most latest information came from my students. The listening test is little bit easy than January and early February. But we don't know what will happen exactly, but your preparation is really important. So when looking at the reading test, what are the key trends of year 2022 is, one is that reading test passages doesn't cover the normal trend. What is the normal trend? Normally, reading test, first passage is bit easy, second passage is little bit difficult, and third passage is more difficult. But now this season, what we can see, all three passages are relatively difficult. And those are long passages. Even academic, even general, the passages content is much longer. So that is the kind of the challenge you have to face. Another thing is, now another trend is that when we're looking at the first passage seems to be not difficult, but when you are reading, scanning and skimming, your answers are not coming as you expected speed. So then you consume more time to find the answers for this reading test, especially first passage. So if you take more time, over 20 minutes to find your answers, it means remaining 40 minutes you have to allocate for next two passages. So it is very much important you have to approach first 13 or 14 questions of the first passage as soon as possible, maybe within 18 minutes of time, and save the time for the second and third passages. So that is very important. Again, IELTS exam, since you are not getting additional time to transfer your answers, so your speed is very much important. So now the current trend is, because of this difficulty, but it means not passages are difficult, but answers capturing, your scanning and skimming, you can't do much. Seems to be a little bit difficult. So especially why it is happened, because of lots of especially that yes, no, not given questions and paragraph matching questions are coming in the first passage also. So then you struggle. You need more time for the heading matching or yes, no, not given questions. So that's why it's take more time. And again, that another reason for this some difficulties of the reading test in IELTS 2022 season. One is that you are getting some reading passages that you are not very much familiar on those topics. The topics may be like honeybees and ants, or maybe some research on honeybees and ants, or maybe Greek fishermen and their livelihood, or maybe ocean temperature changes and its impacts on land, or maybe air traffic control systems and how that flight landing happened, or maybe underground water aquifers, or maybe robotic science. So those are some kind of the areas that your reading passages related. You know, those are highly scientific subjects. So when your reading passages are coming on that areas, definitely you will struggle. Why? Because those topics are not very much familiar to you. So then you have to be very conscious on those and make your good preparation. But I would like to say, so IELTS exam, always we can see that some kind of a changes between listening and reading. When listening difficult, reading easy. Then reading difficult, listening easy. That's a normal trend. But I want to emphasize you, in the current season of the IELTS exam, what we can see is that listening difficult, reading easy. Easy means not much easy, but it is relatively easy. But you have to understand this trend, but this trend can change anytime. So when you're looking at the writing test, so what are the key points I want to highlight you regarding this 2022 IELTS season? One is, now you are getting questions. IELTS writing is more related to current global context, current global changes. So especially you know that IELTS academic students, as a part 2 question, that's a question very important one. You are getting most probably you get the questions like to what extent you agree questions. Then you have to discuss both sides and derive your conclusion. But general students normally get do you agree or disagree model question. So anyway, so what we can see now, especially IELTS writing part 2, you are getting more like current some latest trendy topics for your writing. Maybe that some topics may be that tuition and family bonds. So maybe it's related to tuition and family bonds. Then your question domain is on that area. Maybe robotic science and labor. So to face current global challenges, robotic science is the best solution. To what extent you agree? Maybe this kind of question. Maybe online education is the best choice for improve the education standard of a country. Do you agree or disagree? Maybe. So you know. So maybe global affairs, or maybe on global politics. So you can see that topics of the writing part 2 question is coming on more trendy topics, and you have to think and develop your answers. So that is very important. But looking at the writing part 1, general students always get a letter. So that letter normally coming as formal letters. So formal letters, you write a letter to a professional person, maybe you don't know, then you have to start like dear sir or dear madam. So these kind of questions are very common. But again, we can see the letters are coming on more practical context. More practical context. As an example, you migrated to the foreign university and you got the accommodation, but accommodation are not up to the standard you expected. So write the accommodation manager of the university by explaining those problems and suggest a solution from your side. Likewise, they are asking some questions on more relevant to the current context. Another very important thing I won't tell, especially my IELTS academic students. IELTS writing part 1, by looking at the last 5 years, most of the time as a IELTS writing part 1, we got a question, first question, IELTS writing part 1 question, graph. That is the very common one. Maybe line chart, maybe bar chart, maybe pie chart, or maybe combination of two charts together. Or sometimes we got charts and process together. But I will tell you very important tricks today. Now, last 2 months, when I am getting information from my students, most of the students told me, sir, so this, for the IELTS writing part 1, we got a question map. So it means, so they incorporate a question like 2 maps, like maybe the one of the university map in 2015 and that university map in 2020. Then there are a lot of changes during these 5 years of time. Then you have to explain that map by highlighting those changes. So that is one of the very important findings I got from my students' experience, that IELTS writing part 1 in the academic module. So you are getting map as a question. So then you have to be very careful and practice more and more on maps. But we don't know when this trend change. But the current trend is that. So if those trends change, definitely I will produce another new video to support you to understand the latest trends of the IELTS exam, maybe coming later month. So that is my responsibility for IELTS students in my own country, Sri Lanka, as well as who are in other countries. So finally, the speaking module, that is very important module, that is like a T20 cricket match. Within very short time, you have to show your maximum talent. So what are the trends of this speaking test? Now, by looking at the speaking test, what my students shared, so speaking part 1 and part 3, that examiner try to ask little bit more question than in the past. That is one of the key trends we observe. Another point is, especially IELTS speaking part 1, earlier normal trend is that examiner asks yourself, your family, your hometown, and that kind of information. After that, he's asking some questions under 5 frames, like your childhood, your work, your study, or going outing and shopping. There are 5 frames. But now, what we can see the current trend, in the IELTS speaking part 1, examiner very quickly asks about your name or something, and he quickly jumped to ask about whether you are working or whether you are studying. So if you tell you are working, he has number of questions regarding your profession, what kind of job you are doing there. So what are the positive things of your job? What are the challenges you face? So if you face such challenges, how you mitigate those challenges? Whether you are getting other support to face those challenges. When you are getting other support to face those challenges, what are the challenges you face? Likewise, he's asking some more questions. So that is the current trends of the IELTS speaking part 1. So when it's come to speaking part 2, the cue cards is coming. You will get a 1 minute time for the preparation. At the end of the 1 minute, you have to go for a 2-minute speech for that topics. So now we can see those topics more focused on your experience rather than asking talk about one of the actors in your country or your famous politicians. No. The questions are having more trends to ask about your experience. So maybe explain a situation you feel shy, or maybe explain a situation you supported one of your friend. Likewise, that most of the questions are speaking cue card part 2 is coming like more related to your experience. So that is another important thing I want to tell you. So when looking at IELTS exam, so my final advice to you all is, now you know this exam is challenging. Now lots of people are going to migrate for other countries. So then this trend is changing. So you have to face those challenges more comfortable way and more strongly to face this. So I hope my guidance, my support will help you to understand those challenges and succeed your IELTS and make your migration dream success. So I wish you all the best for your migration dream, your IELTS exam, and anytime if you need to contact me regarding my new classes, you can contact me through note 7729923335 if you are interested to join my classes. So you are mostly welcome. So my online classes, especially the students who are in my whole own country as well as other countries. So you are mostly welcome. So thank you very much for joining for this short video. I wish you all the best for your IELTS dream and your migration dream. Thank you very much. Good luck.